Okay, so we are here. Pillar number four, investing strategies. So this is where it all comes together. And this is where you are now a transactional engineer. That means any lead that comes through your system, you have an idea of how you can exit it. And it's not just fix and flip, or it's not just wholesale. There are quite a lot of ways to monetize these leads, and you need to be versed in all of them. And once you are versed in that, you are a transactional engineer. And that's where it starts to get fun because you're solving problems because you have a tool belt that has a ton of tools. Most of these new investors, they have one tool in their tool belt, maybe two. You're going to have 10, 15, 20. We break this down into four main ways that we're going to talk about in a moment in this pillar. But really, just the key here is knowing that we have multiple different ways to exit a property and make money there. And also at the same time, helping our sellers out. So let's dive into a little bit more detail in this pillar. Okay, so there are four main tiers of investing, and we just break them down. Now, obviously, each one of these we can spend hours on, and then you should come to our 3 day because we do that, which is an amazing event where we do spend a ton of time and break down each of these into tons of detail. But let's just give a high level overview so at least we're all on the same page as to what we're talking about here. So, quick cash strategies, that's usually when someone's a new investor, that's wholesaling. That's the first thing that pops into someone's mind. And wholesaling is a phenomenal strategy and something that you need to be extremely well versed in. Now, there are multiple ways to wholesale within the wholesaling general category. But suffice it to say, when we speak about wholesaling, generally the profits are smaller. We are not keeping the deal. We're basically assigning our contract, or we can do a quick double close type of situation. But this is a great strategy, a strategy that is important to have, but it is not the only strategy. Again, a lot of new investors think, well, I don't have much money, and this is the easiest for me to understand. So that's my only strategy. And then guess what? It just doesn't fit in, or they can't make the money that they need. And what do they do with that lead? They do nothing with it. And now their conversion suffers, and they're spending money and they can't convert, and it's just becoming a whole negative cycle. So we don't want that to happen. So let's kind of talk about some other strategies that we can use when we get leads. Creative. Again, we can give a ton of detail about creative. There's lots of ways to be creative and do creative strategies. There's land sales, there's installment sales, there's lease options. We could be creative when a seller lead comes to us and there's not a lot of equity. We could somehow figure out a deal that makes sense if they have a good mortgage in place, etc. We have to just essentially not bucket into one category. We have to think, well, what can we do here that's a win-win for both us and for the seller? And oftentimes it is creative. I can tell you that in the New York tri-state area, it is a little bit more complicated to get a creative deal done because a lot of times the seller's attorneys really put their hands up and stop the transaction, don't like it. However, it's not impossible. We've done quite a number of creative transactions, and it's very doable. It's just a little bit more difficult in the New York tri-state area, but it is doable and something that we have to know how to do. Fix and flip strategies. Now, this is where obviously we take ownership, we then renovate the home, and we resell it. Now, a lot of times you'll have a new investor and they have a choice to make. They can do a quick cash strategy on the deal and they can say make 10 or 12 or 15K. Or they could do a fix and flip strategy and say make 60K. Now, what do you think that new investor is going to do? I can tell you what they're going to do. Without proper training, they're going to do the quick cash strategy and make 15K. Why? Because they don't have a foundation. They don't know what to do. They don't have the lenders in place. They don't have rehabbers in place. They haven't done their due diligence. They essentially have not done anything in the foundational part, which is pillar number one. Now, I can tell you that if you have a $15,000 win right away, or you can make 60K, which one would you choose? I hope you said 60K. I did too. And you will be prepared to be able to do a 60K win or 60K profit once you've essentially walked through those pillars. You have a foundation and a business, and you're ready for each of these steps. Most people just go right here, they get a deal and they get nervous and they just want to make that fast cash and they don't understand that they're leaving so much money on the table. So we don't want that to happen to you. So just keep in mind that fix and flip strategy is a very, very doable strategy as long as you're ready for it and you're prepared. Long-term wealth strategies. What does that mean? This is why we're all in this business, right? Now, wholesaling is awesome. We can make some fast cash. I have a friend that calls it the golden hamster wheel, which always makes me laugh every time he says it. It's kind of true. But the reality is it's a job, right? You wholesale a deal, you make your money. What do you have to do again? Yeah, wholesale a deal, make your money, and do it again. So it's a fun job, I think, but it is a job. Long-term wealth strategies, isn't it? It's well, it is a job, but it's much easier because what happens is the long-term wealth strategies I'm referring to is owning individual single-family rentals, it's owning small duplexes and triplexes, it's owning multifamily, it's owning even larger apartments, which we own as well. And this is where the money is. This is where every month you get your rents. This is where you can do outsourcing the property management. So this is where it becomes a lot more fun, and that income keeps coming. It's a beginning of the month you get those checks, and that is really, I think that's why all of us are in this business, is that long-term wealth. A lot of brand new investors think, well, I don't have any money to put into a deal. I don't have good credit, but guess what? You don't need that, because what happens is once you get that deal, you put hard money on it. You can refinance out with one of the banks that we discussed, or even another hard money lender that does 30-year loans, and you now have this rental that you had almost no money in, which is something that we talk about all the time. So we want to get to the long-term wealth strategies. We have to identify what deals make sense to go into long-term wealth strategies versus, okay, this is a quick cash strategy versus this is a creative versus this is a fix and flip. So we need to really, I've said this a couple of times, you'll hear me say it again, we need to be transactional engineers. We need to be able to take these leads and monetize them. We spent a lot of money to get these leads and a lot of time. So we can't just be a one-trick pony. We need to be able to be in a specific situation where every single lead matters and every single lead can be converted. So that is really pillar number 4. We've walked through all 4 pillars, and I hope that this really gives you, I guess, opens your eyes as to what can be done here. This is a business. It's not a very complicated business, but most people fail because they don't treat it as a business. There are 4 pillars. Each pillar has its own things that must be mastered to move on to the next pillar. And once those are completed, really you have a business. So I would tell you, I can't wait to meet you. Coming out to one of our 3-day events, come to one of our meetup events, come to one of our office tours, our coffee tours, see some of our properties. We've got a ton of stuff that we do for the local investors. And I really hope to get to meet you. And I hope that you got some great knowledge and insight into how you can run your business more efficiently. Thanks so much. This is Larry Friedman saying good luck, and I hope to see you soon.